Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Java Basics. Today we're going to take what we've learned in the prior episodes, namely prompting for input and strings, and we're going to put it to good use, and we're going to do 3 practice exercises that deal with strings. If you want to learn Java programming or just programming in general, subscribe to this channel. We put out a lot of videos that range from beginner topics to more advanced programming concepts. Also, please like this video, share it with a friend, and write a comment as well. It goes a long way to help promote a channel like this. Now, let's get back to the video. Here's the first exercise. Declare 5 strings, prompt for input for all 5, and then declare a 6th string, and that string should be the combination of the first letter of each of the other 5 strings. And we're going to use the string methods to accomplish this task. So here's an example. If these are the strings that the person enters into your prompt, this is going to be the output. Pause the video, give it a try, and then we'll go over it. All right, let's go over this problem. So the first thing we have to do is we need to declare our variables. So we have string, we have input1, or actually, you know what? Let's call it str1, str2, and str5. And then we're going to have another string, which is the final output. So let's prompt for input for each of these strings. We're going to use J option pane. So str1, please enter string number 1. And I'm going to highlight this, and I'm going to copy and paste it 5 different times. Of course, I'm going to change the variable names, and I'm going to change the prompt. So now I'm prompting for 5 different strings. I want to then take the first letter of each string and put it into final output. So I'm going to declare a couple of more variables. First letter 1, first letter 2, and I'm going to assign these variables as follows. First letter 1 is going to be equal to the first letter of string 1. Well, how do you get the first letter? str1 dot substring. We're going to start at position 0 and we're going to end at position 1. Remember that a string contains all of these letters. It starts in position 0, and when we use substring, it goes from this position up to but not including this position. In other words, we take the character in the first position, position 0, and that's it. We don't include the next character. I'm going to copy and paste this so I can have this multiple times. Now that we have the first letter of each of our strings, our output is just going to be the concatenation of all 5 letters. Final output is going to be equal to first letter 1 concatenated with 2, and so on. And now we print it. Okay, let's run. Let's use the example from the slides. Apple, banana. I think I'm getting them right. I'm just starting with the first letter going down alphabetically. I don't remember if I have the right words. Donut and egg. So we entered A, B, C, D, E, and that's what we get. Perfect. All right, let's do the second practice example. This time, we're going to prompt for only one string, but the string has to be at least 2 characters long. And then we're going to just swap the first and last letters, and then we're going to print the result. Here's an example. Hello would turn into O, E, L, L, H. We swap the O and the H. Now, before we even begin, we should think about drawing a little diagram and making sure we know how to do this. So here's our string. I'm putting a dot, dot, dot here because we don't know how many letters this string is going to be. We do know that this is going to be position 0. This will be position 1, position 2. This will be position 3. But we don't know what this position will be. But we do know what this position is, don't we? How many letters are in this string? Let's say, for example, the word was hello. What's that position? What we can do is take the length of the string. Well, that's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 letters. But this position is really position 4. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this position is really the length of the string minus 1. So we can write that in here. This is length minus 1. Well, if this is length minus 1, this would be length minus 2. This would be length minus 3, and so on. What we're going to do is we're going to take this letter. This will be our first letter. We'll take this letter. This will be our last letter. And then we'll take everything in the middle and we're going to rebuild the string starting with the green, followed by the purple, followed by the red. Let's try it. So let's start with a variable. We'll call it S for string, and that's going to be equal to J option pane dot show input dialog, and we're going to prompt them, please enter a string that is at least 2 letters long. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we're not going to be checking for errors. We're not going to be looking to see if the string is valid. We're going to assume that it's valid. Error checking is something that we're going to be doing later on in a more advanced video. So, once we get past this line, we're going to have a value for S, and we're going to assume that it's valid. Now, the first thing we need to do is we need to get the first letter. So let's do that. String, first letter, is going to be equal to, we'll do it just like the prior example, s.substring. We're going to start at, let's remind ourselves, we're going to start at position 0, and we're going to go up to, but not include, position 1, which means we're just going to get position 0. That's our first letter. Now we want to get the last letter. How do we get the last letter? Well, the last letter starts at position length minus 1 and goes all the way to the end. So first we need to get the length, and then we need to do the substring starting here, going to the end. So integer len is going to be equal to s.length. So now we know the length of the string. Let me move this down, give us a little more room. And now we're going to say string last letter is going to be equal to s.substring. Where are we going to start? We're going to start at length minus 1, and we're not going to put a second parameter because we just want to go all the way to the end. This is the end, so we just take the last letter. Now we want to get everything in the middle, the rest of the string. So where do we want to start? We want to start at position 1, and we want to go all the way up to, but not include, length minus 1. This is where we're going to stop and not include. So let's try it. String middle stuff is going to be equal to s.substring. And we're going to start at position 1, and we're going to stop at length minus 1. Again, not including that character. So now we have the first letter, the last letter, and everything in the middle. Now all we have to do is rebuild the string. Output string is going to be equal to, we're going to start with the last letter, then we're going to concatenate it with the middle stuff, and finally we'll add on the original first letter. And let's print the output. Let's see what happens. Please enter a string. Well, let's try hello, and we'll hit OK, and we should swap the H and the O, and it does. Perfect. Let's try our third and final practice. So we're going to prompt for a string, and we're going to make sure that it's an odd number of characters. Again, we're not going to check for that. We're going to assume that the input's valid. Then we're going to output a new string that consists of the first, middle, and last character of the entered string. So here's an example. This video is great. The output would be T, which is the first letter, I, which is the middle letter, and exclamation point, which is the final letter. Let's do a string that's 5 letters, and let's do a string that's 7 letters. Now we're going to take a look at these and see which positions we have to start at and stop at. Well, we already know how to get the first letter. We already know how to get the last letter. The first letter is just substring 0, 1. The last letter is just length minus 1. We already know how to do that. We did that in the last exercise, so we're not going to go over that again. But the middle letter is a little more difficult. How do we know what this middle letter is, what position it's in? Well, we can't just say it's in position 2 because our string may not be 5 letters long. We can't say it's in position 3 because our string may not be 7 letters long. We have to use the length of the string and do a little bit of math. So this string is 5 letters long. If we take this 5, which is the length, and we divide it by 2, we get 2.5. But if we do integer division, integer divided by integer, Java will chop off this decimal, and as you can see, we're left with 2, which is the position that we want to start at. Let's try it for this one to make sure that our logic works. The length is 7, we divide by 2, and we get 3.5. Again, integer division means we drop the decimal, and we have position 3, which is our starting point for the middle letter. Now, where do we end? Well, the substring command says start at this position and go up to but don't include this position, which means we should do a substring starting at 2, ending at 3, because it won't include 3. In other words, start at position length divided by 2 and stop at position length divided by 2 plus 1. Let's try it. String input, that will be J option pane. Please enter a string that is of odd length. Okay, so now we have our input string. We want to get the first letter, and we already saw how to do that. Input.substring 0, 1. We have to get the length of the string in order to get the last letter. And again, the last letter is going to be input.substring, and we're going to start at length minus 1. We saw that in the prior example. Now, to get the middle letter, again, what we want to do is we want to start at the length divided by 2, and we want to stop at the length divided by 2 plus 1. Equals input.substring. Okay, where are we going to start? Length divided by 2. Where are we going to stop? Length divided by 2 plus 1. And now let's declare a variable, output string, and that will be equal to the first letter, concatenated with the middle letter, concatenated with the last letter. And let's print it. This video is great. 1, 2, 3, 4. That should be 23 letters long. We'll take the first letter, we'll take the 12th letter, and we'll take the last letter. TI exclamation point. Exactly what we would have expected. I hope you learned something from watching this video. Please remember to subscribe and share this video with others who are learning Java programming. Thanks for watching, and take care, everyone.